Who's a Latino? Who's an illegal immigrant? How would you know? And who would you stop? And that's the question. What would be considered probable cause, allowing police to check if someone's in the country illegally? Hello, I'm Ray Suarez. Welcome to this new 2-hour edition, a special edition, of Destination Casablanca. Arizona's new law, SB1070, scheduled to go into effect in July, requires immigrants in the state to carry documents verifying their immigration status. It also requires police officers to question a person about his or her immigration status after a lawful stop if there's a reasonable suspicion that person may illegally be in the country. Many have called the bill dangerous and unfair, not only to undocumented immigrants, but to the whole immigrant population, including naturalized citizens and even U.S.-born citizens of Latino descent, as the law is seen by many as a violation of civil rights and civil liberties. Other provisions of the law dictate that it's illegal to work or to apply for work while in the country undocumented. It is illegal to help or transport an undocumented person, even for humanitarian reasons. And citizens are allowed to sue cities and counties if they think the law is not being enforced. The law will be challenged by those who say it's unconstitutional. Can the fact that police officers are allowed to detain people under reasonable doubt of being in the country legally open the door to profiling Latinos on the basis of race and ethnicity? That's just one of the issues Destination Casablanca will discuss tonight. We'll begin that discussion with Congressman Luis Gutierrez, who represents Illinois' 4th District. Congressman Gutierrez has been a longtime advocate of immigration reform. He introduced the House version of the immigration reform bill last December and was among those arrested at the immigration protest in front of the White House on May 1st. And welcome to Destination Casablanca.
Pleasure to be with you, Ray.
Well, what's the state of play? How has the new Arizona law changed what was already shaping up as a national debate on immigration reform?
At one level, what I saw as I traveled throughout the country were people were less likely to be engaged politically. The disaffection that you felt. In other words, next November, don't count on a lot of people coming out to vote that came out the last time, especially if they're in the Latino community. I think that's changed. You see a new activity, new energy in the community, a new fight. And what it's done is it's interestingly enough, a local law, much like Proposition 187 under Pete Wilson in California, has galvanized nationally everyone. In other words, there was these massive deportations going on around the country. There were all these things happening right here from Washington, D.C., yet it was a local law that I think has really unified everybody across the country.
As we've discussed on this program many times, the Obama administration's assurances to the Latino community that comprehensive immigration reform would come up in the first term started to be pushed back as other legislative priorities got in front of it online. And you yourself took it to the president that you were not happy with this. Does Arizona sort of galvanize a national conversation on both sides of the question, on all sides of the question?
Yeah, I think it does galvanize a national conversation, but I think it galvanizes a national conversation in favor of those who wish comprehensive immigration reform to come about. And here's why. Because now you got Major League Baseball heroes from across the state. I don't want to go to Arizona. You got Shakira. You got, once like popular culture and icons in popular culture start getting involved in the political fray, I mean, it speaks about how divisive the law is and how people respond to it so viscerally that even, baseball, now you have the Suns, Phoenix, I was rooting for them, The reason I was rooting because there was Los Suns. It starts speaking, and then now, are they going to have the World Series there? In other words, there's a whole conversation across America. In Chicago, for example, there's like Little League team not going down there. There's a church conference canceled. I mean, you start seeing religious leaders, baseball, all kinds of levels of society really engaged. And I think that's good. I think that's really good.
But let's take a look at Arizona's point for a minute. Politicians down there and members of the public have said, look, we're just moving into a vacuum created by the federal government because they will not help us enforce the law. We are home to a major metropolitan area, the Phoenix metropolitan area, yet much of the state is actually under-resourced for handling border issues, for handling the processing of people who needed to be handed over to federal authorities for deportation. We're taking control of this because the federal government did not.
Yeah, and I hear that argument. Here's the problem. The problem is we've gone from 10,000 Border Patrol agents in 2002. 8 years later, we've got twice as many, 20,000. We put more ICE agents on the street, 400% increase. Those are the people that actually knock on your door and take you away and deport you. So we've seen that happen. But the Cato Institute, they're not liberal, they're not conservative, the kind of, libertarian. Cato Institute says, hey, we kind of studied this, and the fact is, crime is down, which has also been verified by our own U.S. Justice Department. So crime's been lowest in Arizona in the last 30 years. I think the thing here is you politicize the issue of immigration, you intertwine it with crime. Here's what I think what we fail to really see and what the law really does nothing about. It's the drug cartels. They're the ones that are causing the danger. They're the ones that are destabilizing civil society on the other side of the border and bringing the drugs. And so if you want to look at Phoenix and at Arizona and the border, how can you have a conversation, a discussion, a real meaningful one about security unless you deal with crime? And crime has to do with the drug cartels and, unfortunately, this insatiable thirst that we have in America for the drugs that come across that border.
But if you're, the Phoenix metropolitan area and Arizona as a whole has been one of the big hotspots for the construction trades in recent years. And unfortunately, with the meltdown of the economy, they've also been hit very hard. So if you're a carpenter, either naturalized or of Mexican descent but U.S. born, or just an American who wants to work and build houses, run electrical wiring, put in plumbing, and you go to work sites where they're finishing up subdivisions with labor that you know not to be getting, for instance, all their disability payments. They're not making payments into the unemployment system in case these guys are thrown off the job. When these guys are thrown off the job, they just disappear to the four winds and become somebody else's problem. And you say, that's why I'm not working. That's why I can't get 40 hours a week. We have to get control of this because I'm an American citizen and I want my right to work and make a living and support my family protected. That, you hear a lot of that in Arizona too, and it seems like a pretty reasonable point to make.
Yeah, well, you know something? The fact is, I and others want to end illegal immigration as we know it. Because it undermines the 12 million undocumented workers, undermine the salaries and the benefit scales for American workers. Nobody's going to deny that. That's why lots of people like them, because they pay less and their profits are higher. So we want to end that exploitation of that underclass, which undermines American workers. But profiling Latinos in Arizona isn't going to get you a job. It doesn't settle the job issue. It may make you feel a little better. Well, you know, the police are out there trying to round those people up. Maybe next week I can get a job. It doesn't quite work that way. You need to do it in a comprehensive way. And in that sense, the Arizonans do have a good complaint, a valid complaint. And that is that the lack of action at the federal level has led us to take actions. Problem is that your actions are wrong. They're headed in the wrong direction. They don't resolve the problem. And what we need to do is do it in a comprehensive way. So what I say is, yeah, let's have comprehensive immigration reform. But here's the problem. They really don't want to settle the issue.